What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hardball Talks. It's the podcast all about sports, life, and the head-on collision that happens between them. I'm Jess Schmittling. I'm the director of Extreme Softball, and each week we dive into stories, challenges, and opportunities we experience living in the sports life arena. Today, I'm joined by Broida, who's an Extreme alumni and now coaches a 9U softball team at Extreme. We're going to dive into why Jen made the transition from rec to select ball, some of the misconceptions around that transition, and what her experience has been like for the last 6 to 8 months within the organization. So welcome, Jen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Also, fun fact, Jen is also my sister, so we'll get into some of the family stuff that is is the history that is bringing this podcast together. So, like I said, Jen, you first played in the organization. What brings you back to Extreme?
I did. I first played probably around the time that the organization started. I actually played for the co-founders, for Brett Swip and Pete Hoffman. Had a great experience then, and now I have a 9-year-old daughter that's super interested in playing the sport, and this was kind of just the right fit for us to take her back to where I was.
Yeah. I remember that we weren't quite sure she was going to be interested in softball when everything was first starting, T-ball and things. She didn't want anything to do with it. And now she's in the annex. She's in the facility all the time. And so we're going to shift to just kind of your initial interest here. You know, obviously rec was a great experience just for your team in general to just learn the fundamentals and find an interest in the game of softball. So when did you realize with kind of that first feeling that your girls wanted more and were ready to start exploring something different than rec ball?
Yeah, rec ball really was. It was a great experience for all of our kids that we had. I told everybody they were like a dream to coach. They all were super interested and they just wanted to play all the time. And they were really attentive when they were listening. But it kind of got to the point where I knew that, especially my daughter, they were super interested in the game and they just wanted to play real softball, really was what it was. And I knew right then and there I needed to seek something else out for us.
Yeah. So the makeup of your team too, just so we can kind of dive into this a little bit, is you brought a few of the athletes from your rec ball team, transitioned them over into the Extreme. And then you also have an assistant coach that kind of did something similar. So tell us a little bit about the makeup of that team and kind of where they came from.
Yeah, so right now we actually have on the team that I'm currently coaching, we actually have 5 kids that came from my rec team that we brought with us. Mm-hmm. And then I also have an assistant coach who brought 4 of his kids. So 9 kids total out of 2 rec programs. And then we have a couple extras that we love to have in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. So what were some of the hurdles in that kind of initial transition? Obviously, you said there's your daughter, Mila, wanted to seek out something more. Bryce's daughter, obviously, same thing. And then another one of your assistants, Dan, same thing with his daughter. So as that was kind of coming to a head and you realized that was the case, what were some of the hurdles you had to overcome to really get your team to make that transition with you? Maybe what were some questions that families had that we can help share?
Yeah, definitely. So I think a lot of it was you guys hosted an info session, and a lot of that was we needed to get those kids and those families to that info session to just kind of see what everything was about. A lot of the questions that surrounded it was the time component of it, like how much extra time are we going to commit to this team? And then a lot of it was like the financial side of it too. How much am I having to commit financially to this too?
Yeah. I think, when kids start realizing that they want something more, families start realizing that something more might mean something year round. It might mean, quite a few more dollar signs. And so trying to host that info session, I remember being a part of that and really just sharing with families, one, about our mission overall and what we were going to be able to offer to the athletes as they made that transition. But then also kind of help put some of those misconceptions to the side about, I know your team, November, December, those kind of months in there, they weren't full blown. We're not talking a 12-month season. And so during that time frame, they, did some optional practices. I know was a big part of it. And then as far as the financial component of it, they were able to really see the value of things like training, which we'll get into in a little bit, the side of practices and tournaments and everything that's included, and really just being a part of something bigger than themselves. So yeah, I think, that's a great kind of start. That info session there was a great stepping stone for families to be a part of. And what were maybe some other misconceptions that you face that we can help other families with?
I think just like knowing when to make that jump from rec ball. I think after the first rec game we had, that's when I was like, okay, we need to move on. We need to see what else is out there. Personally, that's when I was ready, and my kids were ready shortly after that. So, and then just kind of getting the families on board was the next thing we needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think you have quite a few families in there too. I remember talking to you early on about just multi-sport athletes. So how have you kind of handled that? How have we as an organization maybe supported you in handling that? What would you say there as far as the number of kids that you even have participating in other things?
Yeah, I think almost every kid on our team has extra stuff, and that was one of my main things going into even coaching. Was my daughter also does extra things on a dance team, on just all the stuff that she wants to do, a school soccer team, and then also having another kid. I was worried about that. So, and I think a lot of families were there. And then just as long as I know that I'm encouraging them to still do that so that they are well-rounded athletes, it really helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do you feel like you've been able to help them as far as managing the schedule of that?
Yeah, we've been really flexible. I ask all the time. I'll post on our Facebook group, hey, coming up this month of February, I actually just did it. And I said, what days work best for us to change our, going from the training that we're in now to full practices, what works best for us? And I try and include everybody in the decision making as much as possible.
Yeah. Cool. So, you decided, of course, to join officially the Extreme and kind of worked through a lot of those misconceptions, worked through some of the questions that maybe were coming your way. You start building this team at the end of last summer. What has that experience been like for you over the last 6 to 8 months?
I think it's been the best jump that we made. We have had, like with you, full director support. I'm constantly talking to you. And then we've had so much training that these girls have learned so much in such a short time. And it's been so fun to see. And then also the other coaches that are around there, like the support from them, and especially also from the athletes, the bonds that they've made already with my girls it's been so fun to watch. I know in the beginning, one of my girls was there a little early for our practice, and pitchers and catchers were working out, and she was not a pitcher and catcher. Well, I had a coach come over and say, hey, do you mind if she comes over and hits with us for a little bit? And I was like, yes, that's awesome. Like she would love that. And I think she got so much out of that. And it was just right then and there. I was like, yep, this is where we need to be. So
yeah, that's cool. The family feel for sure. Let's dive into a little bit of each one of those things. So you said, of course, director support, and yes, we have a lot of conversations. So a little bit about, it's tough. I think that's a whole part of this transition is there's a lot of times that people are afraid to ask the questions even in the first place. And so not even realizing that there's, those questions that are out there. So when you think about director support and some of the conversations maybe that we've had, what are some things that you feel like have been really beneficial for you to help in this process as far as the learning side of this journey?
I think probably every question that I've asked, I've always gotten, great support from it and great answers. And like, even like building a tournament schedule, like how do I go about doing that? And that was one of our most probably recent conversations. Like, when do I need to get all this rolled out? That was probably one of our most recent, but then like even going back to when we started, forming this team was where do I find other players from? What if all these girls don't want to come with me, aren't ready? Where do I find these players at? So, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Having support every single day.
Yeah, I think I really think a lot about probably the tournament schedule side of it is one of the biggest conversations that I think I'll have with coaches, just young, old, new, and experienced, as far as coaching goes. Because when you think about just the platforms that are out there to even build a tournament schedule, it's hard to even know where to begin. And so that's been a really fun process to help you kind of build what that schedule is going to look like, and then of course you can build your practice schedules around that. And I think, building a team is another great one. I think I remember a conversation we had, which kind of leads into the training side of it too, was, what does a warm up look like for 9-year-olds? How do I get them ready
Yeah.
for games and practices? And what does that look like from a structured standpoint? And so we reached out to Coach Jeff, or one of our performance director, and he was able to supply us with some different warm up things to do for the 9-year-old. So I thought that was great. I know you've been able to do hitting and pitching. You've even dove into catching here recently, and then gotten to do some defense with our different trainers as well. So when you think about just that common language that trainers provide, and all of your kids get to go to the same trainer together, what is that experience been like?
Yeah, I want to hit on, like, most recently with the catching stuff. It's, I came to you and I was like, I was a pitcher my whole life. I watched catchers, but I don't really have that expertise on that. So I was like, really need help on that. And we dove straight in and said, all right, let's work with our catcher trainer. Let's do this. Let's do that, so that we can, all three of my coaches, then we can sit there and be like, okay, this is how we train you. This is the drills that we need to do. Just getting that extra help all the time. And we've learned, the coaches, we've learned so much just from everybody.
Yeah, the trainers that have been able to just dive right in with you has been really cool to see, because then of course that's fruitful for your kids, but like you said, it's also fruitful for you guys as coaches too, because we prioritize having a growth mindset and wanting to constantly learn and improve ourselves so that our athletes can improve, learn, and grow too. So the fact that you got to experience that firsthand in such a short time is really cool. A great testimony to have. And then the last component of it that you were talking about was the other coaches and the other kids even getting to jump in other people's practices. I know we have our sister team, and I joke around, and your daughter's running through the facility and knows a bunch of the 13U kids because of the bonds that they've been able to create there. So when you walk in the doors, no one's a stranger, and that's been really fun to watch too. And I can't wait for your kids to be those kids for somebody else in their future. So.
Yeah, like even the other night we were down there and we were doing catching training, and both my daughter and my other assistant daughter, they were in there hitting, and one of the older kids just walked in there with them like, hey, this is how you do it. Make sure we're doing it this way. So that's really cool to see. And they're constantly running around there talking to people, and the girls are always so excited to come down, and anytime we can get in there with everybody.
That's awesome. So we talked a lot about a lot there. And so what would you say, maybe we already hit on this, but if you want to recap here, what's been the most rewarding or just encouraging part of the experience for you?
Really watching my girls grow has been incredible. Like, even having other coaches come up to you, or even other players come up to you and be like, wow, look how far they've come this whole time. So it's been fun to watch, and super excited to see what happens from here on out.
Yeah. And I think, you've done a really good job. I follow you guys' Facebook group too, and you've done a really good job even on those, the off months, or we don't have anything specifically scheduled for that age group. You kind of do these accountability posts, and I get to see kids in their backyards pitching with mom, dad, so-and-so in the pictures. And they come into the annex and use their facility pass to hit there. And I think just a really cool atmosphere is being created through that. So I would say that's been a rewarding thing for me to watch you just kind of lead that and really instill a love of the game, because if they're wanting to do it outside of their scheduled practice time, it just really shows that, again, similar to how you felt at the end of rec ball or the beginning of rec ball, is they wanted more. It looks like they still do, right? They still they are trying to find ways to keep growing themselves. So yeah, and super supportive families throughout that whole process too. Um, so what would you tell, if somebody was in your shoes here, because we're getting ready to launch, rec season is coming up here. And so what would you tell other rec teams that are maybe out there right now that are kind of experiencing this? They're thinking about the fact that like, I think my kids want something more, but I'm not quite sure where to start. What would you tell those teams?
Yeah. So on that note, and I don't know if we've had this conversation, but I actually, with the changes that have happened recently in my team, I actually had a team or a family reach out to me saying, "Hey, I heard you have openings on your team, but we signed our kid up for rec for the spring already, but we want more information on the whole organization." And I was like, well, I'm going to say I encourage you, since you've already signed her up and she needs more um, background in the game. I said, let her play this rec season, see what happens. It's good for those kids that want to learn and want to know if this is something they want to do. But then I said, when you are ready after this rec season, keep my number and come to me and let's get you in for when we do tryouts.
Yeah.
I think rec is important and it's supposed to be there for a reason, but when you're ready and your kid's ready to make that jump, don't be scared to do it, because what can come out on the other side is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. And you think about just even coaches that step up to be rec coaches, and kind of similar to yourself, where you grabbed kind of a core of the kids and said, "Hey, let's go attend an info session. Let's go learn more." What would you say about that process, as far as even just getting people in the doors to educate themselves?
I'd say don't be scared to go find out what else is out there. You know, you just got to do it. You just got to make that jump and go try different organizations and find the one that works best for you, and especially the ones that are going to pour into your kid as much
Yeah.
as you do.
So, obviously we expect that this is a forever home for you and your family. When people ask why Extreme is your forever home, what would you tell them, both as a parent to your daughter and then also as a coach?
Really, I think that it's the family aspect that's behind everything. It feels like, home when we're there. We were gone for 2 weeks over Christmas break, and we walked back in and I was like, man, we miss being here, So I think that has a lot to do with it. And then just building the team, like our team has like this family too. And then you bring all the other teams and coaches and directors and trainers, everybody into it. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah, you've got kind of your own, like you said, I love how you said that, your own little family inside of the big family that is Extreme. So, yeah, really cool. And so thanks for sharing your experience as an Extreme coach. We cannot wait to hear from more coaches like yourself on why Extreme is their forever home. If you're a coach out there looking for support on making the transition from rec to select, please reach out to me, Jess at extremepride.org, for more information. Thanks, Jen, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Hardball Talks, and please subscribe to catch the upcoming episodes.